Hi, everybody. We are just going to give everyone another minute or so to join us before we get started. Awesome. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of Summit 21. This session is an in-depth look of AppsAnywhere Analytics with Nik Green. Just a little housekeeping. All of our sessions are going to be recorded and will be sent to everybody at the end of the week. Throughout the session, if you have any questions, just pop them over in the chat box in the little GoToWebinar task window, and we will get to those at the end of the session. All right, Nik, over to you.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully everyone can see my bright orange screen at the moment. What I'm going to do over the next 45 minutes or so is take you through AppsAnywhere Analytics, the new reporting system that we have built into AppsAnywhere. I'm going to use my demo server so I can create all sorts of havoc. And the first thing I'm going to do now that everything's installed, I'm going to just log into the analytics side of things. But before I do that, just for people who've new customers or customers who haven't yet used analytics, a little bit of background. We've always had a reporting system built into AppsAnywhere, and it's still present even though I can't see it because I have analytics as default setting here. But if I go to my AppsAnywhere portal and type reports, I can actually view the built-in reports that have been there since day one. And this gives us an overview very briefly of application usage, peaks and troughs. So this is a test server, so there's not a huge amount of throughputs through, but you can start to see launches, what's the most popular, the least popular. And there's always been an element to be able to drill down a little bit deeper into information about these applications and who's using them and the concurrency. However, a couple of years ago, and it's always been on the back of the mind of the development team, this reporting functionality, whilst useful, is limited. It is currently only looking at cloud-based applications, the meter time. So it doesn't give an overview of the actual usage of the portal. So a couple of years ago, a project was undertaken to look at how we can enhance this. And there are a couple of options on the table: build out the existing system, start from scratch, or use a third-party tool and integrate that into AppsAnywhere. So after a period of investigation and trialing many systems, the development team settled on a system called Looker. And that is what we've built now into the AppsAnywhere portal as analytics. So once analytics is deployed and installed on your systems, you have the access to connect to the analytics appliance, and it allows us to query a lot more data and display it in a multitude of different ways that the old reporting system couldn't do. So we're just logging straight into the analytics portal now. Again, this is through the AppsAnywhere side of things. And out of the box, we present to all customers, an overview of what's been happening over the last 30 days or so on their system. So you can see the number of logins, who's been using, where they've come from, the types of devices they've been accessing on. the applications that have been launched, and geographically where they're coming from as well. We can also surface more information about the applications over a monthly period and the types of applications. So this is looking at the period for May, and you can start to see the number of launches, number of active users. And like I say, these numbers are not representative of your systems. This is just a personal test environment, but you start to see that it's a lot more presentable with a lot more information. And it also allows us to filter down and give more detailed views on types of machine, whether the access was via on or off-site machines, on domain or off-domain machines, and increasingly important for your understanding of your user base, whether they were organization-owned or BYOD clients that were connecting. And we can also start to see more trends and what's been happening with those applications, and filter down particularly on specific aspects of usage. Where we can also extend this, though, is these are the out-of-the-box reports, but where the real power is, and what I want to concentrate for most of this session is the analytics integration allows you to create your own dashboards and to create your own custom reports, which is something that we weren't able to provide with the old reporting system. So I've created several dashboards previously, and just as a quick example of the sort of thing that we can pull together, I've created a security dashboard, or I've titled it as security. And this is one thing that's come across as I've been doing the installation and the training with several customers. They want to be able to very easily query exactly who's been using applications from where and what. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit just to make it a little more readable for everybody on the various screen sizes. But as you can see, this is giving me a broad overview of the number of app launches, what type of machines they're coming in from, what countries, desktop and laptop breakdown, and a sort of table view of who, what, where, when has been launched on my system. And the nice thing about this is I'm in complete control of it as well. So if I want to actually run a particular query and filter in a particular use case, so I've had a call because a particular student or staff member is having problems, I can filter and just find that particular user and see exactly where they've been coming from. So I can tell that my test user here, Noam Chomsky, he's been accessing from a couple of different machines, he's launched these applications, etc., etc. So it gives me the ability to drill down into that information in a very detailed way. So what I'd like to do is explain how we built this dashboard, how we or I can build these dashboards out. So I'm going to switch to my demo dashboard here. I've created a dashboard which contains at the moment just some header text and a particular report, an explore that has been placed onto this. So how do I create from scratch a new report for this? So one of the features, like I say, is the ability to create your own explores, your own reports. And from the analytics menu, if I select explores, I can now start to pull this together. So this screen is showing a set of predefined data sets that have been built into analytics. And very simply, they are collections of data recorded against the usage of your AppsAnywhere. So we have details about the apps and desktops that are in use, the delivery methods that they belong to, the devices from which people are accessing AppsAnywhere from, the users as to who is actually accessing it, and the login and the launch sessions. And this top row in particular is almost is mostly real-time data. So if a new person logged onto my portal, within a couple of minutes, I would expect to be able to see that detailed and be able to pull that report in, that data into my usage tables. The other two rows here are sort of calculated values. They are averages and summations of data and session information, and they don't update in real time. There are various scripts that run overnight that calculate and aggregate the previous 24 hours usage. So you may not immediately see changes reflected, but within 24 hours you should. So how do I actually create a simple report? Well, let's start with the absolute basics. So each of these explores, as they're referred to, is pointing to a specific set of data. And when I click onto one of them, so I've selected apps and desktops, this is data specific about the application or the desktop that's being used. So on the left-hand side, I have a number of fields that I can select. So if I go ahead and click on the app and desktop, it will put it into this data table at the bottom. No values at the moment. So that's one of the dimensions I can calculate against or report on. And we also have certain measures for these different explorers. So just give me the number of apps or desktops. And at the moment, so I've just selected those two fields. If I hit run, I'll now start to pull in the data pertinent to that. So one of these applications for each of those particular app and desktops. If I go back to my explorers and I move to known devices, exactly the same idea, but this set of data is looking now at the actual device information. So I should start to see the device name, the country based on the location, the IP location. I can see the information that you've already targeted with your delivery methods. You know, is this application organization owned? Is the machine organization owned? Is it on domain, etc., etc. So I can bring in this this sort of information all together. If I hit run there, it's now brought in all the different machines that have accessed my AppsAnywhere portal since analytics has been enabled on it. And that's well and good. I've got some table information here, but I can also change the visualizations. So we have a number of built-in visualizations, and some of these are dependent, will vary as to the type of data that you're pulling in. So because this particular query that I've created is looking at location-based information, it can leverage the mapping tool and draw a picture, draw a global map of where those machines came from. If I was to take off the country name and add the number of associated users and run that again, then the mapping doesn't make a relevant layer for this particular visualization. So in that case, I can choose a column view or another set of visualizations for that. So depending on the type of data you want to display, we can change the visualization that is displayed for that. And if I go to the edit menu, I can also customize this as well. So we have a number of themes and features that we can change here. Change the formatting and how the actual reports look. That one didn't seem to change anything. No, come back to this one. Okay. And lastly, if I go right to the end of this particular selection for the explores and look at launches, you'll see that this is basically all the previous ones added in together. So I have my app and desktop information from the first explore that we looked at. I've got my user information, my device information, so I can start to put together quite a rich tapestry of information. So if I look at countries and number of devices and hit run, I can possibly visualize this as a map, as a heat source, or maybe even a pie chart and break it down as a sum there. So depending on how the data that we select and the visualization, we've got quite a rich toolbox of presenting the information to yourself and to other users. But at the moment, this Explore only exists currently in real time on my screen. If I click off this screen, it's gone, it's not saved anywhere. So how can I put this onto an actual dashboard? Well, we can control this at the top right. We have the drop down for the options for saving and merging results and saving to dashboards. So I can save this as a look, and it effectively saves this as a stored report, and I can call this onto different and repurpose it and reuse it into different dashboards, or open it up again. Or I can save it directly to a dashboard. So I'll go ahead and do that at this point. So I'm going to save this particular pie chart and the data contained into a dashboard. So I have some of the shared dashboards. These are viewable by all the analytics users, or I can save it to my personal space. So I actually have a dashboard saved already, the Summit 21 demo dashboard, so I'll save it into there. If I needed to create a new dashboard, I can just click New Dashboard, give it a name, and save the tile to that. So let's give this a quick name for the tile, save it to my Summit 21 demo dashboard, and hit save. So that's now been saved. So let's go and have a look at that actually on the dashboard. So if I click the link, it will take me back to the home screen. It will refresh that in a few seconds. And from here, I should be able to click onto my Summit dashboard and see that pie chart embedded into it. There we go, a couple of seconds. Just need to click off and click back on just to refresh, but here we go. So the original dashboard that had these two tiles already placed is now joined by the third, my location dashboard here. And like everything else in the dashboards, we completely editable. So if I now go to the edit menu, I can move this around, resize it, edit it, change it about, do pretty much what I want with it and place the location. So, you know, I'm starting to build up a set of data regarding application usage, people's access to my portal. If I want to, I can call one of those looks that I mentioned earlier. So these were just reports or explores that I saved as looks, and I can now repurpose them and bring them into this. So I have an access list here. So let's pull that one in. Sorry, made a schoolboy error there. Let's go back into my dashboard and do it the proper way. Nothing like failing on a live demo. So if I go into my edit and I click the looks here, now I can edit it directly into my dashboard. So this particular, let's put it over here. It's a little jiggery pokery sometimes just to get things aligned. It snaps to a grid format. So as you can see, this list is just a list of the users, the types of machine, the application, and I've done a bit of formatting just to present it. So I've edited that view. Whilst I'm actually here, I can actually go back and edit these particular looks. So once I've actually created them, or these tiles, I can at any time go back and edit that particular one, rename it. So I can call that device location now. And maybe I don't like that particular color scheme, or I want to create it as a donuts there. So we can make all those changes on the dashboard itself. So let's add in just a couple more. Number of devices, number of launches. And I can use pull these all in. So these are different reports that I've used to calculate different things that may be of interest. So the total number of portal launches, the total number of devices, the map again of where they've come from, breakdowns, and also things such as the most used, most popular application and what's been in use on my system. So what I want to also show you now is some of the data that we pull in, we can actually edit on the fly, as it were, and create or manipulate that data as to present it how we want. So I'm going to actually show you this particular tile here, which is looking at the most popular application by usage time. So I'm going to edit this particular look and show you exactly how we've created that. So again, it's looking at daily usage summaries where we have calculated, this is one of those calculated explores. So it's looking at the application desktop name, but it's also looking at, it's calculated the actual amount of runtime for total metered runtime for this application. So because of cloud paging, and we have that information for the start and stop time of when the application is actually running the player, we can actually do calculations and start to add the data in and give you quite exact details as to how much that application is actually being used. We can also display details about the actual number of launches. And the difference between the metered and the portal launches is obviously the metered launches is relating to a cloud-based application being launched, and a portal launch is anything that's been physically opened in the portal. So whereas the old reporting could only report on launches and time for cloud page sessions, we can start to give you some information about the usage of non-cloud page applications as well, and give you that. We can't calculate the runtime, we just don't have the access to be able to do that. But I can tell you that these applications were opened 100 times in the portal and 50 times via cloud paging, that sort of information. But what I wanted to show you here was this particular report here. So it's visualizing a single value. So what I've done is look at the app and desktop name and the total metered runtime. And I've actually, let me make that a little bit bigger so it's readable. And what I've actually done is filtered so it just brings the top result. So I can sort by the values in the fields, and I can also limit the results. So I'm just looking at the number one application in this case, in which case this single value visualization works quite nicely for this purpose. However, what you will notice if you try to recreate this initially is that what is reported is actually the raw data. It is actually to the second the number of seconds that this application has been in use, which, whilst accurate, is not very readable. So one of the things that we can do very simply in analytics is actually change and manipulate that data. So we can actually do calculations against that. And as you can see here, what I've done here is break this down into a couple of different calculations. One to give me human readable dates, minutes, and one to display it as hours. So to add a calculation is relatively simple. It's an autocomplete. So what I'm actually looking for here is the daily app, is the actual metered runtime. So if I start typing, it will complete the fields and the values here. And what I've done there is just select that. And as you can see, I've divided this one by 86,400, the number of seconds in a day. And I've changed the actual formatting. There's always somebody messaging you. Go on. I've changed the actual formatting on how this displays. So rather than giving it as a default sort of number or value, I've used the custom formatting option, where you can break this down and display it as days, minutes, and hours. So DD for days, hours, minutes, and just some space of text just to make it more readable. And when we put that all together, it gives us this particular value at the end for 13 days, 1 hour, 41 minutes. However, it won't always display cleanly because it still has the other values present. So you do have the ability, even though you've pulled that data into the report, to just hide it. So again, from the clog, we can hide or show that in the visualization. So even though I have multiple fields here, the data that is actually being referenced is the CAM Studio and the display as DD HHMS. And put that all together, it saves that visualization. And from there, I can publish that onto my dashboard. I've done something very similar with this particular access list as well. So as you can see, this is showing me the usage. It's showing me the names of users, the machines, the application name, the launch date, all the languages that they come from, the country, etc., etc. So it's, you know, a lot of detail there. But the way that this was built up, I didn't like the way that, or I didn't want the information that's contained in this device info field as the multiple fields that it exists in. So if I explore, I'll explain that a little further. So this has been looking at the launches explore, which is telling me everything about the application launches that's being launched. And as we can see from the table, struggling with screen size here, as we can see from the table, it's got a number of different fields. I can break it down by operating system and the operating system version and the architecture, but I didn't want that spread over 3-4 fields. So again, I just used a second calculation in this particular table just to concatenate that field. So again, much like you would in Excel, type the function concat, it will autocomplete, and then we can just select the fields that we want to group together. And in this case, I'm using device names, the launches, the OS, the architecture, the device type, and just putting some space of text between all of those values just to make it more readable when we display it. And when that is published, it's, as you can see, all concatenated into a single field there. So the actual fields that you have here aren't necessarily how you end up displaying it. You can always manipulate that data. And if you were to visit the Looker site, docs.looker.com, there is a plethora of information on all the sorts of dates, time, number calculations that you can do on your data if there's more advanced things that you would like to cover. So we can put that all together, we can add that into our dashboard and build up a detailed dashboard. However, one thing that's lacking at the moment is that this doesn't currently give me any sort of sense of, or doesn't allow me to do any sort of filtering. So at the moment, it's just displaying all the data that was included in all of those tiles. But how do I actually want to search for something and focus in on particular details? So again, within the dashboard itself, and I can do this at a look level as well, but on the filters within the dashboard, I can create any number of filters for a particular dashboard. So say I want to focus on username, on who's actually been accessing. I can create a filter, let's call it user. It's going to be matched against a field. In this case, it's not a string or a number. It's certainly not a date. It's a field in the AppsAnywhere model. And it's against one of the explores or one of the data sets that contains that information. So I know that launches covers quite a lot of these looks. So I will point it to launches and choose a field. So I'm going to look for username. Wasn't it? Yeah. Username. So I can put a default value on if I wish, or if I leave it empty like this, it will just by default use all the results or find all the results. And if I now tick the all button, it will try to match those tables or those looks rather where the username field is present. So again, on this particular, it's not going to be able to update every single record on this dashboard, but I should be able to update certain fields immediately. So let's save that. And now I've got a filter that allows me to type into. So now if I click here and search for one of the users and hit run, it will now update all those reports where it can match against just username and now show me, yes, okay, this is how we're focusing in. And this is in essence how it allows you to drill down and be more targeted with the data that you're searching for. Okay. So I can add a number of filters into my dashboard at any given time. And when I finish there, it's done. So again, depending on where I've saved this dashboard, currently this is saved in my personal space, so only I have the ability to view this. But if I'd saved it to the shared dashboards, then any of the other analytics users would be able to use that. And it's worth pointing out that currently there are only 5 people per 5 licenses per organization. So 2 people can actually create these reports and 3 can view. However, you need a method to be able to share this information with your colleagues and to other parts of the university or organization. So all of the analytics users have the ability to share any of this information with anybody else. And to do that, again, we're back at the cog menu. We can send or we can schedule the delivery of a particular report. So if I send, it's just going to be a one-off. It's going to ask me to specify who it's going to, and then I can just send it via email. However, if I go to schedule, this is where the power comes in. It allows me to create up a regular schedule. So this could be the license overview dashboard that you send to heads of departments or the licensing manager once a week or once a term, etc., etc. So we can set up the recipients, just add the email address or email addresses. We can add the custom message if we so wish with this, and we can send it as an attachment, a PDF, a visualization where it's embedded into the email, or we can send actual CSVs of all the data if you wish to sort of query it and export it or import it into any other tools. So I could set this every Wednesday at 6 AM, send it to this distribution list, and I can also set filters on the whole report. So maybe I don't actually want to report just on this particular user. I want it to be displaying information for all users. So once I save that, that's now scheduled, and every week at 6 AM, I will now get an email, or whoever will get an email. And just for reference, here's one we sent earlier from another dashboard. So this is the visualization embedded from a dashboard into an email to whoever is on that particular distribution list. Okay. So one last thing I wanted to show you really was this particular table. So far what we've looked at really is pulling data from individual data sets from the actual explores as they are. This one, however, is slightly different. This is actually pulling data from 2 different data sets and displaying them as a single tile. So if I edit or explore this one, I'll show you how this is built up. So we're looking here at 2 totally different data sources. One is the daily usage summaries, and one is the daily metered concurrency summaries. And this is because not all the information exists in every single. We don't have one Explore that's one data set that contains all the data fields. So sometimes we need to match them and bring them together. So what we've done really is create just a very simple report looking at the daily usage summaries. And I've looked at the applications, I've looked at the total metered runtime, and I've done my calculation just to make it readable, and I've created a visualization for a table. And those are those 2 data fields. And so I create a separate Explore with these details. And then from the cog menu, I'm in a different section here, but in the cog menu, there is a merge data set. merge tables. And then it will ask me to choose another explore from the list. And when I do that, it allows me to create a secondary report. So in this case, this is looking at the daily metered concurrency summaries, where I'm looking at the same field, the app desktop name, but again, a different set of information, the peak concurrency for these applications. So what it happens now is when we match those two together, when we join those two together, it asks or detects the field that it can merge on, and it will then pull in the data that merges across those two tables. And as you can see, I can see that I've had a peak concurrency of 2 users for tree size and the date and time that's been displayed for that particular application. So if we wished, we could also add a third or a fourth table, as long as there is a field that we can match against that exists in one or other of the tables. We can link several different tables together and report accordingly on that. And when we put that all together, we can end up with quite an in-depth analysis of the different data fields. So again, let's round off on my security dashboard here. We go back and have a look at this. We can add in multiple fields. We can format and concatenate the data. We can add a number of different filters, which allows us to focus in and pull the data that's relevant to our particular query. So if you, again, if you wanted to know who was actually accessing from a particular machine, we can just focus in there and update those dashboards accordingly, those tiles accordingly on the dashboard, and give you the information that you need. So analytics is there for you to use. The built-in reports are just as a sort of guiding note to give you an overview, but really the value for yourselves is to sit down and have a think as to how you want to, or what you need to query, and maybe sketch out the actual notes of what it is you want to pull together, and then sketch out some dashboards and start adding that data to the tables. Okay, over to Keegan, I think it is.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Nick. Very interesting. Yeah, we've just got a couple of questions here. If anyone has any more questions, just whack them in the questions field, and we'll try to get to them. So we've got one from Mitchell Paris asking, is there a way to export data from analytics?
Is there a way to export data? You can save most of this information out as a CSV. So individual reports or the whole dashboard. So if I wanted to download the data for a particular report, I can save it as actually multiple methods here. So each individual tile or report here is exportable and downloadable. Or you can actually save the data as a CSV directly from the menu at the top right.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Nick. And another one just to come in as well. What exactly are the infrastructure requirements for analytics? So what additional would people need to get set up to add to their AppsAnywhere environment?
Okay. Well, the actual analytics engine that is creating the visualizations and the calculations, that is a Linux appliance, much like the AppsAnywhere appliances. That's built by Software 2. And then it is a secondary SQL database where the data is actually written to. So the data is written to the database, and the analytics appliance is the web engine that we embed into AppsAnywhere to give you these views. But if anybody's interested, then just reach out to their account manager or raise a support ticket, and we can provide you with that information.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Nick. I think that's all of the questions for this webinar. Thanks everyone for joining. If you have any questions following, please get in touch with myself or Shelley. But yeah, thanks very much, Nik, and thanks for joining us as well, everybody.
Okay, pleasure. Thank you very much. Bye.